Chapter 19. Frigid air suddenly hit Sam's face as Alday's hooves touched down at a full gallop. The caravan hurtled behind, its wheels barely cushioned by the snow as it landed with a rattle and shake. It was only Alday's powerful, continuous pull that kept the whole thing from turning over. From the roof, Vadoma called down, "Hatch!" Alday gladly eased his gallop and came to a stop. Vadoma hopped off the top of the caravan and seemed to float down to the ground with grace and ease. She reached up to stroke his back. "There's a good boy," she smiled. "Always the best way to travel." The raven came to perch atop the caravan with a squawk. Sam released his grip and was finally able to actually sit up on Alday's back. He looked at Vadoma with confusion, turned his head to the other side of Alday, and puked. "It's why you hold your breath," Vadoma laughed. "Being traveled can be hard on your insides." John turned and vomited off the side of the coachman's box with a pronounced Vadoma laughed even harder at John. "I told you! I told you! Ha 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 ha!" Vadoma shook her head, then looked around to take in their new surroundings. Through the dark, moonless night, she could just make out a large, snow-covered field surrounded by woods. Just at the other side, peeking out from the ice here and there, a river flowed at the edge of the field. High in the sky, curtains of green fire from the northern lights streaked silently across the heavens. "So, this is Forge, then?" she asked as a bright streak dropped from the sky all the way to the northern horizon. "Nice lights." John coughed to clear his throat and brought his head up from the side of the caravan, trying to get his bearings. "We're close to town. This looks like one of Stanchfield's pastures." The raven gave a caw from the top of the caravan and flew ahead. "Just follow the bird." He leaned over the side of the caravan to finish what he started. Vadoma shook her head with a chuckle. "You heard him, Alday. Follow the bird," said Vadoma. Alday snorted a cold mist into the frigid night and tugged hard on the caravan. At least he wasn't in a hurry. The night woods were thick with fresh snow. Alday's hooves crunched as he followed the raven's lead from above to the main road running north into Forge. As they came out of the field, the packed snow fell away from the caravan's wheels, and Alday chuffed, happy to be on a more worn path. Not used to the cold weather, Sam's nose was running, but the pelt's warmth kept most of the chill at bay. His stomach was feeling markedly better by the time Alday pulled the caravan down a short row of wooden buildings. Their wheels cut tracks through the fresh snow, making two long lines on either side of Alday's hoofprints. Sam looked back to see John was still hanging his head over the side, recovering from being traveled. "Is this it?" Vadoma questioned, unimpressed with the main street of Forge. John lifted his head from over the edge of the caravan. "Yeah, this is it." The raven, happy to be home, cawed and flew off, its black wings quickly disappearing into the darkness. Forge was a one-road town. If it wasn't for being so deep in the woods, it could be mistaken for one of the many frontier towns that were starting out west. A few two-story buildings were set close to the only street, with cabins close behind, each with their own little plots. The cabin windows were all dark, save one on the northern hill just outside of town. The slightest of winds stirred the trees as a gravelly voice echoed from all around them. "Evening." Alday stopped short and sent Sam lurching forward. When he sat up, he saw an old woman standing in front of their entourage, with the raven on her shoulder. Her right hand clutched a gnarled maple staff. From its top sprouted a single maple leaf, encircled by slowly blinking fireflies. They cast a glowing light on her breath as she exhaled into the moonless night. She looked at Alday for a moment, then directly at Sam. She held his gaze for ages before Sam realized she wasn't looking at him, she was looking into him. In the glowing light from the fireflies, Sam realized her eyes were two different colors, one darker, while the other was as light as the snow. He felt something stir, like he had been missing her. A smile slowly crept across her face. "It's you," Letha said with the smallest hint of a bow. Sam's eyes widened and he sat up straight, answering from a trance. His voice was a mix of his own and another. "It is." "Of course you'd arrive on a horse," Letha chuckled. "Of course," Sam answered wryly. Letha gave an eye roll as she and Sam shared a laugh. Letha shifted her gaze up to the caravan, and a light-headed Sam fell out of his trance, blinking several times. "John, welcome home," she offered. "Nice suit." "Letha?" John did his best to put on a smile. His stomach was still inside out. "Good to be back." "Letha?" Vedoma asked with surprise. "I've heard that name. You're not... Wait, the Letha?" Letha looked up to Vedoma, then back at the entire caravan. "Nice carriage." "It's a caravan," Sam interjected. "Is it now?" Letha smirked. "I think I've seen this lovely caravan before. You wouldn't know a lady named Vashal, would you?" "Vashal? That's my grandmother's name." "Grandmother?" Letha paused. "Has it been that long?" Letha's eyes darted as she searched her memories. "Why, then, you must be Varby's daughter, then." Vedoma stood and placed a hand on her heart. "Vedoma, daughter of Varby, daughter of Vashal. Madam, it's an honor." "Well, it has been that long, then." Letha's voice softened as her memories trailed into a past before Forge. "Oh, dear, the trouble we used to... The river." She looked back up to Vedoma with a grin. "Letha, my dear," she nodded, also placing her hand on her heart. "The honor is mine." She held Vedoma's eyes and took a breath before continuing. "Seems your timing is perfect." "Always is," Vedoma responded. The raven cooed lightly on Letha's shoulder. "There you are." She gently stroked the bird. "I have one more job for you." The raven cocked its head. "Go check on Alma." The raven scuttled its wings and squawked. "Sakes, it's just right over there." Letha pointed to the cabin just up the hill outside of town with the dim light flickering inside. The raven cocked its head sideways again, and Letha did the same, a mild mocking. "Go on now." The raven opened its wings and took off from Letha's shoulder toward the cabin. Letha turned to John. "Seems Constance is a bit occupied this evening, John." "Alma having the baby?" John asked. Letha nodded. "Should be soon. She started this afternoon. I expect they'll be needing me before too long." "Well then, she doesn't need me troubling her," John responded. "I'll tell her you're here." Letha turned back to Sam. "Lucky for you, we've got the cabin ready for you all." "Just him," replied John. Letha raised her eyebrows, but knew he'd give her the whole story later. "Well then, plenty of time to settle in." Letha looked at Sam. 2 weeks before the moon is full again, and you'll be having your proving night." "Proving?" Sam raised his eyebrows. "Has he not explained anything to you?" Letha gave John a scolding glance. "I expected to have a bit more time," John answered. "Vedoma here was a very efficient transport." "These caravans do travel well," Letha chuckled as she spoke from distant memory. She made a welcoming offer to Vedoma. "We've got a spot in the barn to keep you a little out of the cold and such, if you'd like." "I'll gladly accept, madame. Thank you." "Of course, dear," Letha smiled. She turned to Sam. "Slide on down here, young man, and lead this horse for an old lady now." Sam slid from Alde's back, finding his legs quite shaky from being traveled through the portal. He took hold of Alde's bridle and walked the horse along next to Letha. Sam felt a warmth as Letha's hand found his shoulder. She let out a sigh of relief. "It's good to have you back."